Hello, welcome to Astro Breeze Astrology Study Group. And today we're going to slow it down a little bit and get a little bit big picture on looking at a chart. We are going to look at classical astrology, which is the seven inner planets, and I include the sun and moon when I say that, and the first group of planets that you could see with the naked eye. And that's been a part of classical astrology for a long time, just because it works so well. It works so well. And I'm going to share my screen so you have something to look at. I just went to Google Images and I was just wanting to look at the solar system. You can just click on images and then go click or type in solar system. And I just want to have a few images here because for me it helps because I'm visual, but not like spatial visual. So sometimes it's hard for me to imagine something unless I have some kind of concrete illustrations in my head. So here's like from um, a side view, or what do you call it, observer's view of our solar system, a slice like this. If you look at this picture over here, you can see the sun, how big it is, and then I mean, and this is even not right. This is not, still the scale is not nearly close, but it gives you something to kind of put in your head. But you look at the first group here, we've got Mercury and Venus, and then there's the Earth, and then Mars is on the other side of us, and then there's the asteroid belt. And then there's Jupiter and Saturn, and then it goes out to the outer three. So, the two planets that would be in, I don't know what we call it, they're more inner, to us are Venus and Mercury. And they're, you can refer them to the personal planets. And then these two are the inner planets. And then we have Mars as part of and Earth as part of the personal planet, or part of the group there. Okay, I'm losing my track here. I wanted to show you a couple of other things. Let's look at, there was a couple good ones here I wanted to show you just to get an idea. Bear with me. Let's find it. Kind of gave a strange spatial view. Here's this one. All right, so this one you can see a little bit differently. You get more of a kind of a space view here of it. Let's see, do I have it on my other screen? No, let's get that one. Okay. So I really just want you to have something to look at. Oh, okay. Let me go to my other one here because you get a little bit different distance. New share. Let's do this one. Okay. All right, that's good enough. This will be good. You can see these. Look at this, like Mercury, be like a tiny speck. How close it is, like to the sun, and then Venus. Then Mars, and I mean Earth and Mars. Very interesting there. And then look how huge Jupiter is, and Saturn as well. So this kind of gives us an idea. So the sun, all this, I just want you to have something to look at while I just kind of outline this for you. The sun is the source of it all. Without the sun, nothing would work. Nothing would happen. It would be nothing. So this represents the core part of our personality. It is the self. It is the identity of who you are. It's what separates you from everyone else. It's like your ego, it's your identity, it's your individual persona of you. That is the rule by the sun. That's why the sun sign and all that got so much emphasis right away. It's going to be the ego. It is going to be the identity of what you want to do, who and what you want to do. The moon reflects the light of the sun, and it's there to represent our subconscious mind. It's our deep primal needs. It's those needs that pop up before you even think about it. It also has to do with your habits because it's a moon, memories, what we need to feel safe, what we need to feel secure. It's how we go through life. It's how we go through reacting to the circumstances that we find ourselves in life. There we go. That's a good way to put it. So those two are the lights, okay? That's the kind of the part of the core of who we are. So the sun, who we are, describes your inner and outer, your subconscious and your conscious. And then the other planets, the Mercury, Venus, and Mars, is how we go about getting things in life. Mercury rules it rules our I don't say rules, kind of a stupid word, but it correlates to, there we go, our intellect. It's our brain, how our brain works, how our mind processes information. Do we react? Do we mull it over? Do we space out? Do we fight? Do we submit? Do we, flow? How do we deal with things in our mind, in our thoughts, in our information? And so much information is being delivered to us nowadays, it's just overwhelming. So how do we handle that? Venus and Mars are kind of a push-pull. Venus is a feminine sign, so it's the ultimate hyper feminine, hyper femininity. It's going to pull like a magnet. It's like seductive. It pulls in, where Mars is the opposite. It's hyper masculinity. It projects out. It's ejaculatory. Venus is just pulling. It's how you attract things to you. It's how we bond with others. It's our who and who. It's that attraction. How do we bring things to ourselves, and what do we like? What things do we like? Do we like watery things, flowy things, emotional things? Do we like fiery things? Do we like things that are stimulating? Do we like things that are calming? We'll get into this a little bit more. I'm just giving you kind of an overview. And then Mars is how, if we can't attract things to us, it's then how we go about bullying our way to get what we want. And sometimes, Mars is in, if it's like in Aries or a fire sign, then the bully is identifiable easier. If it's in a water sign or something different, then it's maybe more obtuse. It's more sneaky or manipulative, or is a different tack. It's not like how you would think. It's not explosive. So we'll explore those. So with all of this totality of things, this is the way that we all roll. All right, let's go look at some charts so I can illustrate this, and we'll look at somebody. All right, I took away the outer planets. I don't want you to be distracted with that. And I took out most things. I left the moon node because you can learn to ignore that. It's like funny. In astrology, you got to ignore certain things and then highlight other things. But we'll look at Mary Tyler Moore. She was a early dancer, and then turned like a comedian, actress, I guess you would say it. I always thought she was pretty classy. I liked her. She, was a really good dancer. She was tall and long and svelte, and she just moved really well. But she was sweet. She had a kind of a sweet nature. But anyway, we'll look at her. So let me talk a little bit about what we're going to be zeroing in at, how we're going to do this. So if you at all have, of course, your birth time, I mean, I would bend over backwards to get it. This tells you so much more. You get your rising sign, you get the house placement, where everything is, because that's where things are happening in life, is in the houses. The planet and the sign is saying kind of the play that you're going to see, or the movie that you're going to see, or maybe the actors or actresses in it, but it's not telling you really the movie. The house is saying this is where it's all happening. It's like if it's the first house, there's your action Mars movie. If it's in the 12th house, well, there's your crying Pisces movie or something, right? Okay, so if you can all get it, you can write to if you're in the United States, maybe in other countries there's something similar, but here in the United States, it's, you write to your state, the Office of Vital Statistics, and you ask for your long birth form, your birth certificate, the long form. Sometimes you have to pay for it. I don't know what it is now. I've done mine years ago, 15, 20 bucks or something. It's worth it. Get the long form, and that has your time on it. If you were born, I don't know, if it got recorded for the most part. Most people do, especially hospital births. There's more hospital births now than there was home births. Some people still, didn't get it written. But anyway, if you can get it, or divine it, or pendulum it, talk to relatives. You can deconstruct it. Try to get your birth time as best as you can. Sometimes you can get close, and then you can run the birth chart. And then if it's, you can maybe judge the rising sign or the moon a little bit, get closer and see if there's anything changes to really ascertain you, because each sign, it kind of dissolves into something opposite of the next one. So it's like if you read, like, say this was you, whatever, and at this time it was kind of like right in the birth time, the ascendant is like almost right in the middle of Pisces. If she were born an hour later, it would be more near the end of it, or an hour and a half. It may be closer to Aries. But if I were to read that, and then read the Pisces rising, and then I read Aries rising, one or the other, it's just going to definitely sound like, oh yeah, this is you, or no, this is not you. No, because they're so opposite. All right, let's look at the sun. So the sign of the sun, this tells you kind of who you are. So like, let's look at Mary. So her sun is in Capricorn. And what are her core interests and values? So she's a Capricorn. And so she valued hard work. To be a dancer, it's freaking hard work. That's shoot, your body, your mind, stepping, counting, the right place. You're doing a lot there. That's pretty tough, physically and mentally. It's definitely grueling. So that would say one thing, that she would value hard work. What house is it in? It's like how you fit in. What areas? These are the areas of life that pique your interest. Like, where do you spend your time? And here, if this, and I looked at the birth time, and it said that it was read off a birth certificate. So according to this, it is in the 10th house. And here it is. She's, ambitious. Sun in the 10th house. She is going to be somebody. She is going to be a big somebody. She wants to be something big, wants to make a business of it, a life. Even though she was a sweet person, she got into some of the series, the Dick Van Dyke Show, and then she had the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and probably did lots of comedy stuff. So there it is, big ambitions. And look at Jupiter. Just can't help it. I mean, we're not going to get to it today, but sometimes you just can't ignore stuff. Jupiter, which enhances and makes everything bigger, is in conjunction with her sun. It's right there. It's like a little over a degree away. So that would only amplify the sun. I just have to say that. And you can just see the North Node, it's at the other, it's close, but it's like they're it's like moving toward that, or it's got that, she got that North Node in the 10th house, which again would be like what you're doing in life. And that's all in this house of occupation. So this, I had to point out because it's a busy house. We're not going to get into that totally, but sometimes you can't ignore everything. So you can see this already. And then Capricorn, it's the ruler of the 10th house. She's almost got a natural chart, because she was born in New York. It's a little bit warped. We've got Pisces rising instead of Aries, but we got such a, because of the warpage, it's, higher latitude, we've got bigger first and seventh house, and then smaller like 10th and 4th. But look at all that crammed into that 10th house. It's smaller, the house, and it all is there. She was destined to do this on a large stage. Now, interesting enough, she was just after the full moon. I mean, it was probably, hours or half a day later or whatever it was, because we see the moon is in Cancer. And it's on the opposite side. It's not exactly opposite the 10th, because it moved on into the next house, but because her sun is at 7 degrees and is at 27, but it's still an opposition pretty much. There's full moon, just waning a little bit, full moon, and then Moves, what is it, moon 2.5 days into sign, so that's probably what, 27, I don't know, it's a day later, a day and a little bit later. Anyway, a couple things about that. The moon, the sign that the moon is in is what you need. Remember, it's your that emotional, that deep subconscious emotionally is what you need, and it's how you respond to things emotionally, who you are inside. And here she's got a little tough outer side, but she's got that soft Cancerian inside. She's that the moon is in its own sign. Interesting. So we have Capricorn in its own house there, and she got moon in its own sign. It's unfortunately the moon is, or fortunately, it's in the fifth house, maybe not in the fourth. If in the fourth house, she might not have left the house. I want to be home. I don't want to go acting, and I don't want to go dance. But here, it's in the fifth house, of being seen. Interesting. So, the house here is a little uncomfortable. It's probably made to go to dance lessons or something and then liked it or got the acknowledgement or something about that. But anyway, because the sun and the moon are opposite by sign, but not exactly by degree. So if it were exact, we'd have that sun moon opposition and Jupiter, but it's out of range, it's out of orb, but we still have those signs that are opposite. So her moon, is in the sign of its rulership. The moon in Cancer. That's like she just feels comfortable with her emotions. Something comes up, is there. Whoop, I can't hide this. Whoop. And then being a Pisces ascendant, oh, that would probably make her even more emotional. And I remember watching the Mary Tyler Moore show. She was really cute with how she would talk to her husband and how her emotions would come up. It looked genuine. If you ever have a chance to go back and look at some of the old Dick Van Dyke shows, look at how she reacted. But she just, that emotional was just right there, hard on the sleeve. Oh, Rob, oh, she just had this little quivery voice, and she was so sweet and cute about it. But anyway, nice trine there. Okay, we'll go on. Oh shoot, I should have taken Saturn and Jupiter out. I didn't want to confuse you, but we'll ignore them for today. I want to take them out, clear up the sky a little bit more, but it's okay. So we got the sun and the moon. Okay, so we see a little opposition. We'll get into this a little bit more. I just wanted to define these, and we'll kind of keep, it's like our optometrist, does this look better or does this look better? Look at this view or look at this view. So we kind of start wide and then just zoom in a little bit. All right, so we got that. And then we noticed that, again, the moon is in the fifth house. It's in the house of Leo, of look at me. Look at all I've done to get up here. And now, I've done all this stuff. And now look at me. Do it. Here I am on stage, which was good because, she had to deal with people watching her on stage and be okay with that emotionally. Poor, tender little snowflake Pisces rising. And I'm sorry, but it's delicate. It is. Pisces rising is very delicate. You got to sometimes be careful what you say. Maybe you can't curse and yell and scream around that energy because it just it overpowers it. It's more demure and delicate. Pisces just ends stuff and dissolves things, so. Okay, so that's core energy. Now let's look at the mind, and we go back and look for I'm looking at it. Mercury, golly gee. I'm thinking a little thing with the hat on its head. Looking for Mercury, and it's up here in the 11th house in Capricorn. Now you remember that Mercury, it's very close to the sun. So you see it here. It's like just, it's a head of the sun here. It's at 27. So it's also in the same sign as the sun, which enhances the sun. It enhances that work ethic. So her sun and her Mercury, her mind, get along. They're congruent. They're her subconscious urge, the intellect, how her brain works gets along with how her sun works. This is valuable. Yes, this is valuable. I should act on it. Yes, you should act on it. In her head, she's going along with whatever her sun is. That's just good. It could either get along, it'll be in the same sign, it'll be in the next sign, or it'll be the sign previous. If in the same sign, but far away like it is here. It's not conjunct the sun. It's got its own identity, where if it's closer to the sun, it gets fused. The sun and the Mercury become one, and that's often a lot in Mercury's orbit because it is so close to the sun. All right. So she's got like a little grouping of this Capricorn stuff going on, and then it's in the 11th house, the house of others. So this is where she could work with others, work with others on something serious, and she did. She had TV shows. And then she's got calm, cool, collected Venus in Aquarius. This is interesting because it's in a masculine sign. Aquarius is masculine. Um, and then Venus there is feminine, and that's a little bit different. She's got a lot of the feminine. She's got that feminine moon, feminine rising, feminine, all the sun, the planets. The Mercury is all in feminine signs, and then here we have the Venusian influence is masculine. So this toughened her up a little bit. And it's in the 12th house of Pisces. So interesting. So it's in the 12th house. It's kind of drowning, but at least it's in a house that's compatible with where it likes to be. It likes to be home in Taurus, right? It's like its main home, and then its second home would be in the 7th house of Libra. But anyway, it isn't. It's in Aquarius, and Aquarius is calm, cool, collected. It's slightly radical. It's dry. It's like, oh, uh, you can't look at that one person. It's got to be for all. Is this the best for all? So her Venus is in that, and it kind of balances that, I think, hyper emotionality that she's used to. And then Saturn in the first house also kind of brings it down to earth a little bit, even though it's in Pisces. Saturn, kind of resonates that Aryan first house a little bit, gives her a little bit more zing. But that's beside the point. But sometimes you just can't not look at it, but maybe we won't dwell on it. So the Venus there is like, okay, you think about that. Okay, now we have our masculine influence. We've had feminine, 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 and then now here's our first masculine. And then we have Mars in a weak place, in a weak house. It's in Libra, and Mars in Libra and Mars in the house of Libra, Mars in the 7th house. So it's kind of like a double whammy. So this kind of interesting. This really brings Mars down. I mean, it's in the masculine sign at least, but it's in its detriment, place where it doesn't like to be. It weakens Mars, but it makes it maybe since it's in the 7th house, it has to deal with others. It has to deal with partnerships. It has to be nice. Mars, you have to be nice. Okay. So this, I think, is a kind of an interesting, because we have the lights, in feminine signs. Her rising sign's feminine. Her mind is feminine. But then we have, her wants and needs. How she goes about getting them is masculine. So she'll be like calm, cool, and collected. Oh, that's okay. And then, you didn't get that, did you? Mars is like, okay, remember Mars, at least here, when it's in Libra, it's still in a cardinal sign. So it's a little bit happy, at least, it's happy sappy. So, yeah, Mars can be manipulative. It's like, all right, I'll manipulate what I want. Okay. That's how I intimidate and aggress what I want. If I can't cool, calm, and collected like Venus draw it to me. So yeah, she's got a little interesting stuff here. Let's see. Nothing directly in anything fire. Look at all her inner stuff. There's like lack of fire, but we do have things in fire house. In the first house, the 5th house, nothing in the 9th, but we have the moon and Saturn in fire houses. Whoop-de-doo, right? Ooh, not a lot of fire influence, but yet she really propelled herself ahead. But see, that's like we got that whole Capricorn stuff in the 10th house. Sun in Capricorn with Jupiter sitting right there, you kind of can't help it, you know. Here's like, you know, a damsel in distress gets rescued and put in an eye. You know, here's a place for you now, little princess. So this is kind of a nice chart like that. It's just nice. And then look at the moon though. It's kind of the singlet planet. You know, Mars is sort of by itself a little bit too. Interesting. And the moon, they're kind of out there without anything. And then you get the big grouping of all the other planets. And then we took out the outer planets just for now because this is describing her personality. A lot of the outer ones to me are confusing because we don't need it to describe the personality so much. I like it in timing of events and things more, um, looking at eclipses and stuff. But when they're kind of pairing away stuff at the personality, because they're more generational, you know, at all, if anything. All right, so what else can we go about Mary here? I'm not going to get too much into all the other parts. We're just going to weigh that. Okay, so we don't have any fire directly. We have a lot of earth, right? And then we've got a little bit of air, yeah, a little air, and then water. So we just, all those are fairly balanced, but we just kind of lack the fire. But we got some firehouses. All right, let's go to Lucille Ball. And I think you can see this. Hold on. Make sure. Can't see on this end unless I do something. Okay, so you should be seeing Lucille Ball. I just wanted to pick another chart that I could have the birth time. All right, so this one, let's look at her sun. She's a Leo. Well, did we expect anything more? I mean, how she was loud, vocal, funny, pushy on stage. Look at me, of course. And but look, it's like in her eighth house. Not far from the cusp of her seventh, but still, it's in her eighth house. Interesting. So that tied her in with, you know, like the result of her husband Desi Arnaz. They married, and then you know, he had the, you know, the band, and then the, you know, the show, and that kind of started her on her career. And even though seventh house is like your house of partners, that's like what, how you react in partnerships, that describes that. But it's kind of like the wedding. The eighth house is the marriage itself. So having that in there, she kind of had that married, um, you know, had to deal with it, had to deal with the whole Desi Arnaz, Lucille Ball, the business, you know, their creation. But then, you know, describing her, you know, there was that private side. Maybe we all didn't know. Maybe there was, you know, that very inner tender side, and it's at least it's in a fixed sign in a fixed house. You know, that maybe helped her to make some parameters in her life, or to be a little fixed about something, because it was still kind of a man's world over in the 50s. You know, for a woman to be that big, um, and successful was daunting, you know. And then to create that whole business side of it, which she did, and she ended up having her own show for a long time, right? Okay, so then here we have her moon in Capricorn. Oh yes. So moon Capricorn in the first house. So that's, you know, I would say it's a calm, it's a it's a cold moon. It's maybe cold, calculating. It's, you know, and in the house of Aries, it's, you know, Saturn, or at least Capricorn is exalted in Aries, so it kind of fits there, but it's not a real friendly place for the moon. So the moon, you know, wants to be warm and nurtured and safe, and it's like in this cold, austere Capricorn in the Aries house. So her emotional side maybe was not that peaked, developed. Not quite the right word. It wasn't the forefront of her life, maybe put it that way. Even though she acted, but it was like, you know, a lot of that's mental. Maybe she was more calm on the inside. Had that wall, you know, was able to separate herself and from what she did. All right, what else do we know here? Let's look at Mercury. Mercury, is getting close to the sun, but it's in a different sign, right? It's in the next sign. It's now ahead of the sun. Um, so her Mercury in Virgo, it's exalted there and it's in home. So it's exalted and it's in its home. So she's very smart, very intelligent woman. To be able to be that comedic person and to know what people wanted and to act that way and then to be herself and to be the businesswoman was amazing. Her mind was never stopping. Never stopped. She's probably a little neurotic. It was probably hard to live with her. The mind is on and on and on and on like that. And then we go on to Venus, and it's in Virgo as well. So that made her even more so. Venus not happy totally there. Um, it's like, Venus wants to be sensual, or at least it wants to be, cardinal aggressive, if it were like Libra, that's its masculine side, you know um but it doesn't feel really happy there in Virgo. It's not a real good place for it. It's fall because it's exalted in Pisces. So it's not, yeah, it's in its fall. So that's like its worst place. It doesn't feel good. Her female nature, maybe it was hard. Maybe it was hard to balance that, home life and home and family and the outer world. So that was a difficult thing. It's a difficult place for Venus, but it added to her career. It added to who she was. By having that, she liked to be meticulous and to think it through and to be organized. Both of those got along at least. Not that, it's not the best placement for Venus, but it was, buddying up with how she thought and how, her mind rolled with everything. All right, Mars over here in earthy Taurus. So that's where Venus would rather be. It was like next to Saturn. Um, but yeah, Mars, over here in earthy Taurus, not real happy there. It slows it down. It's in a feminine sign. This is gonna make it a little bit more for her, I would say it's more on the security level. And, that was like, it's in her fourth house of home. She wanted to secure money, secure home. I wanted, this is my business, my business. So I think it got channeled into that. And look at it being really close to Saturn right there and the North Node. Became a business. Similar distance to Mary Tyler Moore. Remember, she had those two planets and then it was far away from the North Node, but it was all grouped together there, her Sun and Jupiter. Well, she got Mars and Saturn. So this is going to really add to the work ethic. I mean, once you get going on it, you can't stop it. So very, very tough, but at least it's in a sister house. It likes to be, in the second house, right? But at least it's in the fourth. So it's in a feminine house. The sign at least, but the planet itself is not happy in that conundrum. The house nor the planet. So Mars is like, eh. It's kind of like dressing your cat up, You're laughing and think it's funny, but the cat just hates it. Okay. What else do we got here? We got a fire, um, earth. Whoa. Holy camoli. She just got, I mean, I'm not going to look well, we can look at the water sign right there, but she's mainly earth. Look at that. And we get the fire sun, Leo, and it's fixed. But then we have mutable earth, and then moon, earth, and then, the other earth here. So pretty earthy. She was pretty down to earth and pretty grounded in that way, but we have a little bit of the neurotic mind. It probably helped because of this Virgo stuff here, which is that mutable, and then having it, there, it's exalted and stuff, but it's just never stops. It's never stopping. It's always on. Um, yeah, and this is interesting. It's not, yeah, see, Jupiter is opposite her North Node. So I think that would lead to some of the fame and success. And then having Jupiter in Scorpio there, uh, yeah, made it kind of deep. anyway, we won't get into that part right now. But we see here Jupiter in the 10th house, though. That's whenever I see that things in the 10th house, Sun or Jupiter, Sun, we saw that. That kind of leads to a lot of fame. Or look at me, um, business there. So there expanded career. All right. What we have to say? There's a fire there. That's in water house, another water house. Got a firehouse, earth house. Okay. Well, without getting into too much, you can do this with your own chart. Look at the sun with that, and then let's one more thing. Let's do. Let's see how things. We were kind of talking about it, but let's see how they get along. We were kind of were, but the sun being in Leo, does it get along with the moon being in Capricorn? I say no. They're in conjunct. They're her emotional nature is is way different than her outer nature. I bet you she had a lot of inner voices there. It just didn't jive with her outer personality. The moon was wanting, maybe to be calculating in business, and the sun was being loudly Lucille, right? Being on stage. But she seemed to channel it well and put them together. Um, and then here, like her Mercury and Venus, been the next sign. They have nothing in common, right there. So her another inner voice not getting along with the ego's wanting to do just be on stage, but no, I gotta write my lines and I gotta write something for him and I gotta do that. So there's all of that inner noise. And Venus too. Venus, not really in its happy place, or it's in Virgo, a sign of its fall, in the house of Sagittarius or fire. So not a real warm and cuddly place. So probably wasn't a real, well, you don't get a real warm, nurturing vibe from her. She was more outward, loud, and funny. So that would describe that dichotomy. So she probably had a lot of stuff in her head that was and if she didn't have the stuff in Virgo, she probably couldn't deal with it, because that was probably everything that was probably organizing it was that Mercury in Virgo. So once you look at it and get it all out, see how things get along. It's like sit there and look at it a little while, take out some of those other planets that are not confusing to you, and see how these inner planets get along. And like her, look at this real quick. Her Venus and Mars, do they get along? Let's see, we got Venus and Earth and Mars and Earth. Well, they're trine by element, so that's not too bad. So she probably, again, she had that certain parts get along, but again, she wasn't the person you would want to go cry on her shoulder or in her bosom. She wouldn't be that comforting to you. She'd like, okay, now here's $100. Go make yourself feel better. Get some ice cream. Okay, let me go back to work. Kind of like that, rather than, oh, honey, oh, it's like sometimes you need that when, but anyway, yeah, you can just see how these parts of yourself interact, and look at the conversations between them. Are they get along? Yes and no. How about here? It's like, well, yes and no. It's like, I'm not. If I Venus is like, if I'm have to be this, at least I'm in. At least I can make money, or at least doing this. At least I can make money being funny. Having this conundrum of this stuff. All right, that's it for today. So this is fun. I think it's a good slow down, so we don't have too much. Look at that. Look at where they're at. Again, you can always then start looking at the aspects between them. Seeing that the numbers line up, and then any little placement of how they're at in the chart, and go from there. All right. Thanks for listening. And I gotta move that. Stop that share. All right. See you guys next time. Bye for now.